one English-language newspaper in Pakistan writes, and I quote, "Taseer's shooting is evidence that it is not necessary for extremists to be in the garb of the Taliban. They exist everywhere and in all forms." Well, let's bring in Ed Hussein at this point to talk about these concerns. In his book, The Islamist, he describes how he was radicalised as a student, but he now works to help other young Muslims avoid the same fate. He's at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington. Ed, your initial reactions when you heard about Taseer's assassination and consequent reaction to what you saw today?
I think, I speak as a Muslim here, and I think the Prophet Muhammad, our Prophet, would be turning in his grave at what's being done today in Pakistan in his name. And let's not forget that this entire episode starts back in November of last year over one woman, Asia Bibi, offering a glass of water to other farming women in remote Pakistan. And because she happens to be Christian, the other women turn around and say, "We can't drink this water from a non-Muslim, i.e. a Christian woman." So there's, the first point of intolerance and bigotry. She then turns around and allegedly says that worms are in the mouth of your prophet when he died. Now, this is bizarre conduct on both sides, but nothing warrants this poor woman to be put through what she's being put through, and now, worse, a prominent Pakistani politician being killed by an individual who's got links to not an extremist group, interestingly, but a mainstream so-called moderate organisation. And I think it tells us two things. One, that Pakistan is in a deep identity crisis with an excessive force on Muslim supremacist tendencies where other minorities, in this case Christians, are looked to be subhuman, and we saw that in the conduct of the farmers. And the second crisis is that those who speak out against terrorism and extremism in Pakistan, those who come from the liberal left, often have inclinations towards atheism and anti-religiosity. So combined, you have a situation where the masses in Pakistan, very religious, very devoted, tend to see those who speak out against extremists from the liberal tradition to be essentially anti-God, anti-Islamic. And I think the Urdu language that talks about secularism as la diniyat, or non-religiosity, sometimes as anti-religiosity, doesn't help. So we've got a real problem on our hands at all levels in Pakistani society. And this case just exposes the depths of the problem.
Let's just have a look at how the story has been told in Urdu language in a newspaper called Ummat, and in an English-language newspaper, which is called the Express Tribune. I'll get that one up first for you. Too many people have already been killed by the hideous misuse of the blasphemy laws. Salman Taseer should be the last. His fight against the blasphemy laws was his last crusade. Repealing it now would be the greatest rebuke to his murderers. The Urdu language newspaper based in Karachi says this, and I quote, "It is a fact that Salman Taseer made a controversial statement on a religious issue. There is no doubt that taking the law into one's hand is not right," alluding to his assassin. "However, similar incidents are possible in reaction." How concerned are you that effectively the moderates or liberals in Pakistan are being told to shut up or be shot?
I think you've highlighted the problem with huge accuracy there, Becky, that this is exactly what's going on, not just in the Pakistani media, but also in the Pakistani military, where when you read the Urdu journals that are circulated in the Pakistani military, their front page coverage almost always tends to be sympathetic, not towards Al-Qaeda, but towards the aims and objectives of Al-Qaeda, i.e. creating an Islamist supremacist confrontational state on the borders of India and beyond. Whereas if you read the English journals circulated within the army or in the wider Pakistani population, you have this elite that write for the English journals and newspapers that tend to be more educated, tend to be westernized, tend to have sympathies elsewhere. Now, the vast majority of Pakistanis read the Urdu literature, and they are then suspicious of the English-speaking, English-educated, Western-connected liberal elite that they see to be representatives, stooges of the West. And this is the fundamental crisis within Pakistan, that a deep hatred and animosity towards India, towards America, towards Israel, and at the same time, this devotional aspect of Islam that's being exploited, A, by extremists, and B, by even moderates who, when it comes to condemning the killer of Salman Taseer are muted, and as your introduction illustrated, even refusing to lead his funeral prayers. So, you've put your finger on the pulse of what's going on in Pakistan. Urdu-speaking, Urdu-educated, Urdu-exposed population singing from a different hymn sheet to the elite, educated, English-speaking population.
A population that runs the country, of course, at the moment. You have a president and a presidency, a government in crisis, even before this incident took place. What's the future for that government at this point?
It's looking very shaky. I mean, he's reached out, the current Prime Minister Gilani has reached out to several parties to form a government and to continue the government, but it's difficult to tell, but every prediction is that it will continue for a little while longer. But as with all things in Pakistan, the short term seems to be staggering along, but the medium and the long term is unpredictable.